Okay, today we are playing a game on Watchpoint Gibraltar. We are in the Platinum SR range, and we will be playing Soldier the entire way through. And our current team composition is D.Va, Soldier, McCree, Junkrat, Mercy, and Zenyatta. So we have 1 tank and 3 DPS, which is not the end of the world. And for once, we won't be sad if they have a Pharah. Instead, the Pharah will be sad that we have 2 hit scan heroes, Zenyatta and D.Va. At least theoretically, anyway. It's not that remarkable, honestly. We are also on the PS4 today, so consider yourself forewarned if that bothers you. So let's start the game. So we are standing very far up also. I don't really like standing on the bridge, because I find that if certain things come out of the doorway on the top, you can just kind of get picked off immediately. Or you can get bumped off of the bridge right into the middle of the enemy team, and then running away is rather scary because you're right next to the enemy team. So I don't really like to stand on the bridge that much. We do end up killing the Tracer because she came out and stepped on a trap. Oh no, how sad for her. But then she's alive again because Mercy's in the game. And she's coming up. And Tracer's starting to come up this way. We get a few shots in on the Mercy, don't manage to kill her. And then our friend McCree is whisked away before our very eyes. But at least it wasn't us. Better him than us. So, here comes Tracer. D.Va has... Oh yeah, we're on flowfeedback.com. There's not that many comments on this video, but there's a few. D.Va has indeed left us. Because we put the biotic field down, I would have probably gone for it as well, but then Tracer does a pretty good job of just, like, coming up on us and just one-clipping us, basically. We do make it easier for her by, like, walking into her as well. If we start, like, backing up in the hallway, and shoot down it, she doesn't have very many ways that she can come at us. She basically just has to go in a straight line. So if we just back up in the hallway and put some more space between her and us and her, we should be able to kill her as she's trying to approach us, seeing as she used her recall. But we just sort of go into her instead. So we think about going up on the high ground, but then we decide we don't want to go up on the high ground. We want to be up on the high ground. If you are given any kind of opportunity to go up on the high ground, you should go up on the high ground, because the high ground is really overpowered. Especially for certain heroes like Soldier and McCree, who are just incredibly obnoxious on high ground. The first checkpoint on Gibraltar is one of the better maps as well for Soldier to be on the high ground, because you get to threaten this entire area. Because that's the benefit of the high ground, because Soldier, mid to long range hero, so what we want to do is we want to be as far away as possible, and preferably on high ground, because it's harder to kill you if you're on the high ground, first of all, but it usually gives you a better line of sight, and Soldier's zone of threat is his entire line of sight, so we want to be far away and safe with a big line of sight, and usually high ground is the best place to do that. This catwalk above us, this gantry, is also just really annoying, because there are not very many ways to get up there if you don't have some kind of mobility. So it's one of the better maps to play Soldier on. We are instead just kind of like fighting right next to a bunch of people, which is very, very scary because we want to be far away from people, usually as Soldier. Soldier is at his weakest when people are right on top of him, but we do manage to kill the Tracer before she gets away, which feels pretty good. So we should go back up onto the high ground now. We find something very unusual on the high ground. As we're coming up here, we catch a glimpse of the cowboy, McCree, hiding behind this crate. And then we go up to try and fight him. If you're trying to fight a McCree, don't go up to the McCree, because that's just going to be what happens to you. We knew he was there, so there was no reason for us to go up to him. We could just shoot him around the crate and force him to move. No need to go up to him. McCree generally wants people to be pretty close to him, because if he flashbangs you, you probably die. You should die if you get flashbanged, unless you're a tankier hero. So we jump off the high ground, which is generally a faux pas, probably because of Tracer, because we're just like moving into her to shoot at her, or maybe we fall off accidentally. Either way, we want to still be on the high ground, so now we should take this time to go back up onto the high ground. And we can do that pretty quickly, because we can just go in the doorway back into the hangar, and the staircase is right there. This is a slightly longer way to get there, but not that much longer, and then you come out here. You do have to go through the server room to get here as well, which can be scary depending on where the enemy team is. So we see shots coming through that doorway. We're waiting. Nobody comes out. Oh, we jump off the high ground again because we want to come in here and fight people. just, like, stay up on the high ground. There's no reason to come down here and do this, because you can just wait for them to come out of the doorway or come into view on the doorway. Now we're fighting this Tracer, and it's really scary, and the rest of the enemy team is starting to collect, and oh god, we couldn't get away from this hack visor when he used it. If we're on the high ground, none of this happens, because Tracer can't threaten us up there, and then Soldier uses tack visor. We just walk backwards a little bit, and then he can't see us anymore, and we can come back out when we want to again. So we are back in the hangar now. We are going to use tack visor in the near future. You don't want to get too... There's a mistake people make in the hangar where they start trying to make their big plays while the hangar door is still open, which is not what we want, because we don't want the hangar door to be open, because that makes it way easier for the enemy team to get in the hangar. We want to save our big plays until the payload is actually far enough into the hangar that the door closes, because then they have to walk through the death cube doorways. So, Mercy uses her ultimate, so now we're going to use our ultimate. We don't actually kill the Mercy, unfortunately, but McCree does manage to kill the Mercy instead. We managed to kill the Tracer, she's coming up onto us, and we end up clearing the payload and killing off their momentum, which is cool. So we don't want to be down here, we want to be up on high ground, because high ground's pretty sick, just in general. And I like to stand on the right side of the shuttle, because you can see all 4 doorways. You can't see the 4 from that side so easily. And you can still retreat easily, because you can go backwards through the ship, and get to the other catwalk behind you, so I prefer to stand on this side. And this is like the easiest part of the map. If you lose the first checkpoint, this is like the easiest part to defend, provided you don't just get steamrolled. Because this is like the best feeling in the world to get to defend the map like this, because, oh, they just have to choose one of the 4 death doors to try and walk through. And that's it. There's no other options for the enemy team. And then they have to go through this fairly open area. Like, I know there's stuff down here, but this is a pretty open area that they have to try and walk to you through. So, it can be quite unfortunate for them, especially if you have, like, a Farah, Junkrat, Soldier, like these people who are just, like, hard to get to and just applying pressure in a big area. The problem is usually that, what tends to happen on Gibraltar is that the enemy team, you'll see, the defending team will lose the, first checkpoint, but they'll have all died, like, right outside the door as they were capturing the point. So then, whole team's respawning, the enemy team just gets to push it, like, past this area, and the defending team never actually manages to regroup and kill off their momentum enough to defend from this position. So, that was a long-winded tangent, but the moral of the story is, feels good, man. So we jump off the high ground. We are coming down here to try and stop the Tracer from killing Mercy, so fairly justified reason to come down. Oh, scary, we got the Tracer in the end, seeing as Tracer was going to go underneath where we couldn't see us, so we jumped down to try and help the Mercy, basically, which is fair enough. But now, our team's starting to die, and we're down here on the low ground with the common folk. Oh, it's disgusting. We don't want to be down there with the peasants. So our team is largely dead, so we come back out here and we wait for our team to regroup a little. You should take this time instead to just go up on the right-hand side, because then you can get up onto the catwalk over there, rather than trying to peek this doorway over and over again, because we've already established we want to be on high ground and far away from people, and you come out that doorway, you're usually pretty close to the enemy team. So, now we're up on the high ground we want to be, and this is also a pretty cool place to play Soldier, because you've got this huge line of sight vantage point. There's very few ways for the enemy team to get to you. Basically, the only way is to come up here or through there, and you'll see them coming, because how could you miss them? So, this is also a really nice place to play Soldier, or McCree, or just like anyone who benefits from long range. Basically, this is a nice place to be. So we jump off of the high ground, which we did not need to do, because we could still see everybody, and we decide that we're going to use our tack visor right here. They do look like they're trying to commit to this push, so they end up not really committing to the push. We don't want to be on the low ground, which we just jumped off of, and then we start using tack visor right in front of a Roadhog, which is a scary person to start using it in front of, because, well, you probably don't need it to kill the Roadhog anyway, but then also, he can kill you quite easily if you're standing next to him, so... And also, the way the fight goes, it looks like we didn't need to use it, but it looked sketchy enough at the time that I would have also probably used it, but I wouldn't have jumped off of the high ground to use it, because using it on low ground is risky. It's easier to get killed, and the enemy team... Because your line of sight is usually more restricted on low ground, it's easier for people to just kind of disappear out of the way. So, their soldier is currently using Tac Visor, and most of our team is dead right now. There's nothing you can do about this, because your whole team just kind of got killed by Tac Visor, and unless you kill him somehow, it's not gonna happen. This is the last comment on this video. We're only halfway through the video right now, so... And then they just kind of stop halfway through, so we won't be seeing any more of our friend making comments now. So we've lost that checkpoint, feels bad. This checkpoint is also quite easy to defend in my experience, because the enemy team has very limited options in how they can try to approach. The high ground here is also pretty good. The place Junkrat's standing right now opposite is a really nice place to stand if you can get up there, because you can threaten the entire slope coming up. And it's really hard to get up to you up there unless they have, like, a Winston or a Diva who can just jump straight up onto you. Because, I mean, yeah, you know, that tends to make... That's usually the easiest way to get up to the high ground, play Winston. So, our Junkrat just killed a bunch of their team, both of their supports died, so this push is basically destined for failure at this point, and we almost have Tac Visor, so that's cool. So, we should take this opportunity to reset up onto the high ground on the left-hand side, because high ground's pretty sick, and we can threaten this whole area, and we're really hard to get to us. Instead, we're coming down here, and you don't want to ever really go down the slope as the defending team, because at that point, you're basically fighting right outside of their spawn. And the closer you are, trying to think of the best way to phrase this, the closer someone is to their spawn when you kill them, the less impactful it is that you've killed them. Because it takes you 10 seconds to respawn, but it takes you longer than that to actually reinforce, because doing that is the respawn time, which is 10 seconds, plus however long it takes you to get back. So if you kill someone right outside of their spawn, it just takes them 10 seconds to get back. Whereas if you kill them, like, suppose you kill them, like, right up near the end of the checkpoint over there, well then, to reinforce all the way back up there would take about 20 seconds or 25 seconds, depending on your movement. So, you don't really want to start fighting at the bottom of the slope, really, because at that point, it gets really easy for you to die, it's really hard for you to run away, and it doesn't really get you much for killing them. So we get jumped on by Reaper, and that feels bad, and he spins on us. And if we were up on the high ground, that couldn't have happened to us, you know? Yeah. The moral of this game is very much high ground is really overpowered, especially as Soldier. So we just use Tac Visor here. This is the best you're gonna do, so you might as well. Try not to, like, go into people that you're shooting at, though, because that can happen where you just kind of get killed by something. Tac Visor, you can be standing as far back as you want, doesn't matter anymore. So, and generally walking into people that you're shooting at is not good, because it generally makes it easier for them to kill you. And you don't really gain much from walking into the enemy team. It makes it easier for you to hit them, I suppose. Like, we win the round, don't worry. It's easier for us to hit them, but walking into the people you're shooting at is a bad habit, and best avoided, especially as someone long range like Soldier. So, I'll spoil the surprise for you now. We don't capture the first checkpoint, and it's very sad. We actually have an AFK during this round, so, you know, that's cool. It happens. What can you do? It happens to everyone. And we're on the console where I'll wager it probably happens more, because online communities for games on consoles don't tend to have glowing reputations, you know? So, enemy team standing up there as well right now. Junkrat just went over there and fucking annihilated them, which is very sad for them. But, Junkrat can kind of do that now that he's got 2 concussion mines. It's quite easy for him to just kind of kill people, you know? So this is a hard way for us to try and get up there because we have to funnel through a very narrow tunnel at the enemy team. And they have a Bastion, of course they do. And an Orisa, so it's hard to, like, walk up that staircase. When you're, peeking a corner to try and shoot at somebody, especially someone really threatening, like a Bastion, who can kill you very quickly, just, like, by himself, but then there's other people there as well. Don't take such a wide angle around the corner, because now, the wider the angle you take, the longer it takes you to actually get back into cover. And then we, like, kind of drag it out a bit as well. But if you're, like, all the way back out and you start going out, then you're like, oh fuck, I gotta go back. It takes you longer to actually get in cover. If you're just, like, here and you peek out, you've only got to take a couple of steps and you're back in cover again. There's a tendency for people when they're moving places to kind of just move through the center of an area. You want to try, when you're positioning in general, which is, of course, the entire game, and positioning is one of the harder things to get used to because it's something you have to do the entire time that you're playing the game, basically. But whenever you're positioning, you want to try and keep it so that you can get to a piece of cover very quickly in case something terrible happens. Soldier starts using tack visor. If you're just, like, in the middle of the street, you're like, oh fuck, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna get shot and I'm gonna get killed is what's gonna happen. You always want to be near something that you can get to cover, like, within a couple of seconds. Like, within a second or two, basically. So we just decide that we're gonna run straight underneath them, which is fair enough. They're a team full of static defenders, so we can just kind of push past them at this point. Sorry about the cursor. Professionalism. So now we're coming out the other side, so now we have to try and deal with them again. And, you know, they're still in largely the same place. Their soldier, like, fucking goes for it, man. Like, I wouldn't have been ready for that one, honestly. Like, he just goes for it. So Zenyatta is AFK at this point. He just sits in here shooting the wall. So, cool, you know. So it's gonna be hard for us because a 5v6 is just hard, you know. Believe it or not, when you're just down a person flatly, it's very hard. I know, this is shocking information, no doubt. So, Torbjorn has used Molten Core, which is why we don't really want to go out anywhere right now, which is fair enough. Molten Core is a very scary ultimate to try and push into. So, here we perform the same mistake we made earlier, which is walking into the McCree and the McCree just flashbangs us and we end up dying. And then he just slides over the wall. It pulls off the great escape from the Reinhardt. Don't walk into McCree, because if you come into flashbang range, you should die. He even ended up managing to kill the Reinhardt as well, so sad for Reinhardt also. So we almost have tack visor now. We still got 2 minutes left, so, you know, we still got time. We got some time. We give up that fight really easily, but I feel like we could have just stood up there and kept fighting him, because we're winning the fight, basically. We give up on it really easily, but we could have just taken that guy, honestly. We put the biotic field down for not very much reason, probably just to heal the Roadhog. He doesn't need it. And biotic field has one of the longest cooldowns in the game at 15 seconds, so it's very punishing to use for no reason, because then it's on cooldown for a long time. And you want to have biotic field ready for when you actually, like, start a fight, because it's pretty strong. It's a pretty decent heal, and it's what makes it possible for Soldier to kill someone like Soldier or Winston or D.Va. Or a Soldier, I suppose. Unnecessary maneuver. You can just jump up the side of the crate, because there's a little angle on the right-hand side you can stand on, and you can just hop up there, and then jump up there. And then you can jump over this gap as well, as any hero in the game, but quite easily as Soldier. So Bastion is trying to flank us right now. We put our biotic field down because Bastion's doing that, but then we end up leaving it behind immediately. Try not to use biotic field unless you're certain you're gonna actually fight. This gets very scary, but he ends up not actually getting behind the barrier in time to survive. You don't wanna leave biotic field behind immediately after placing it, because then it just doesn't do anything, and that's... We don't want to use our cooldowns and then gain nothing out of it, basically. We get shot running away, you know, feels bad, man. Zenyatta being very productive still. I don't know, you know, I don't know. People, man, people. So, we don't have a lot of time left. We're not going to get another Tac Visor. We use Tac Visor basically just to kill Mercy, which is, frankly, fair enough, because she was using Valkyrie. Like, I have used many ultimates just to kill the Mercy and the Valkyrie, because it is definitely worth it. Because otherwise, Valkyrie is just 20 seconds of, Mercy doesn't die, unless I trade an ultimate to also kill the Mercy. Or I can play like an absolute god for the next couple of seconds and actually, like, hit the Mercy. Which I think I've done probably twice, ever. So, you know. It's hard to kill the Mercy through the Valkyrie without using an ultimate. So Tracer is coming right at us. Toblerone is also behind us now, and, like, we're pretty hosed, as I'm sure will come as no great surprise. We come down here. We don't actually get... Oh, no, we do get back up here in time to touch it. Okay. However, we've just heard Bastion turn into a tank, and then we get flashbanged, and oh god, shockingly, it doesn't go super well for us. This replay does not have the play of the game in it. Does not go long enough. Very sad. So, the biggest thing that stands out is positioning. High ground, real strong. If you have... As soon as you're given an opportunity to go up onto the high ground, just go up on the high ground. If there's a fight, if you're, like, in a fight, and you're on the low ground, and you think that if you leave the fight, your team's gonna end up losing the fight, then yeah, you stay and just fight on the low ground as best you can. But as soon as you're given an opportunity to leave and go up onto the high ground, just go do that. Because, especially as Soldier, one of the best the best hero in the game, basically, on high ground, because it's just really hard to deal with him. And if they don't deal with you on the high ground, they should lose. Like, if they make no effort to get you off the high ground, the pressure you apply from being up there and uncontested should make it impossible for them to win, because it's very hard to win against that. Just like a soldier up there constantly, just uncontested shooting down at your team is really hard to deal with. Because nowhere is safe suddenly. That's like the thing that stood out the most is just like positioning, because it's just like a continual thing, you know, is positioning. Because it happens throughout the entire game, which is also why it's one of the harder aspects of the game to get to do well, because you have to be doing it constantly. Eventually, it just, like, becomes muscle memory, and if you just, like, think to yourself, oh, I go on the high ground, eventually you're just gonna be like, and now you just go to the high ground without thinking about it. If you think to yourself, oh, make sure you're standing near cover, eventually you don't need to tell yourself that anymore, it just becomes second nature. That's kind of the thing that stands out the most. We didn't really use Biotic Field that well, but that might just because I noticed a few things right at the end, and I was like, oh, now that just, like, really stands out to me. You want to use it when you're actually fighting somebody, because then you benefit from the heal, and it makes it quite difficult to kill Soldier in Biotic Field, because the heal is actually pretty good. I didn't think to look for this as it was going through, but if you're like very far away from the enemy team, don't like hold down the trigger continually, because then your spread gets very unmanageable. If you're at very long range, you want to like burst fire so that the spread tightens again, because you don't want the spread to be out of control when you're far away, because then you're just not going to be hitting people because the spread is too much. But after 4 shots is when the spread starts. 4 or 5. I can't remember what the exact number off the top of my head, and I think it was 5 and they nerfed it to 4. I don't remember exactly right now. If you're really far away from people, you want to like burst fire, or even just like tap. If you're really far away and you're trying to do something quite, like trying to hit like a Mercy or something, or a Widow that's really far away from you, then you like just like tap so that you actually like hit them at very far range. Because that's the benefit of Soldier. He's a very mid to long range fighter. He's not a sniper. He's not at sniper range, obviously. Like if you're trying to fight a Widow, you're gonna lose that fight usually. But you can fight from very far away. But the further away you get, the harder it is to manage your spread, because you're far away and the spread becomes obscene, and it's hard to hit small targets with spread from far away. You know. It probably doesn't require that much explanation, but I'm a long-winded, tangent-y kind of person. I've got no interest in making concise, salient points. I just like to talk. Okay? That's what's happening. So, thank you very much for watching if you did. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer, and I hope you found the video helpful.